Hello, podcasters. Welcome to the Podcast Profit Club. This is the only show that's going to give you updated trends, new ideas, everything happening in the podcast industry. We'll keep you updated right here. We're also going to help you grow and monetize that podcast you have. Make sure you subscribe now. Today, we're going to talk about Facebook and everything that they're doing. Spotify is doing a lot with the Greenroom. And then we got some experts that are going to drop by, give you some insight. And then we're also taking some questions from Quora. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast now. Let's get started. All right, first up, we got to talk about what Facebook is doing. If you don't know, Facebook is now adding podcasts to their platform. And I kind of saw this coming because podcasting is just becoming so popular. It's mainstream now, so it's everywhere. Facebook is one of those companies, it's kind of like Apple or Google, where they want to be at the forefront of everything. I think Apple is really strategic in terms of standing back and watching the changes everybody else makes and then adapting to that. Like everything Samsung does, Apple does it later, but better. Facebook is kind of the same way. It's just no other social media giant they're really competing against. So now they're adding Facebook pages to Facebook. What this means is you used to have a business page, you would set it up, but they noticed that a lot of podcasters are setting up business pages as podcast pages. So now you can actually set up a podcast page for your show, which is amazing because it comes with a ton of other super valuable features. Like you can add your RSS feed to Facebook and it immediately uploads episodes to Facebook. Now, there are some details about this where some people have said their content has been scanned, and if you use any copyrighted music, they'll mute you. Facebook is really serious about that. And if you use any kind of content that isn't yours exclusively, they'll mute it or remove it. Some episodes won't be uploaded. And Facebook is just really strict. We all know that, right? That's kind of part of their shtick now. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Them being so strict and kind of setting up a lot of rules, I think is what makes them a little easier to use in other advertising platforms or even content platforms because it's so strict. So it might seem like a bad thing, but if you look at the other side, you now get to reach millions of people with your show. Like think about how many people you can reach with your podcast when you put it on Facebook. It's so many people. And another thing that's inevitable is they're going to charge you and say, hey, your podcast can reach another 2,500 people for $5. I don't know too many podcasters that are going to turn that down, right? like we're going to see a lot more podcast Facebook ads popping up. Another feature they're adding on Facebook is that you even can clip your show. They're going to create clips for you, whether it's video or audio. Now that right there is a game changer because we know a lot of people want to have those clips and they want to pay people to do it, but it's just complicated. It could be really hard to have VAs and stuff. Makes sense. Facebook is going to make it to where this process is automated. Now, we're still in the early stages. It's only been rolled out to small few podcasts, like not a ton of shows. I don't even think it's past 100, to be honest. Like I know maybe 5 people that have access to it. And it's just kind of crazy how slow they're moving with it, but we'll see more in the coming weeks and the coming months, and you can definitely expect us at the Podcast Profit Club to keep you updated. Another trend we see right now is Spotify. They're making a ton of moves right now, shaking the waters up. They have the Greenroom app. Now, if you don't know, this is an audio-only app. It's kind of in competition with Clubhouse and Facebook rooms. Like once Clubhouse blew up and it was worth billions and it had it was a frenzy around it for a while, right? Now every other platform is trying to build their own audio platform. Like everybody's trying to build their own audio section of the app. I personally say right now, Twitter Spaces is the best. Now Spotify is connected with the Locker Room app, which is usually focused on sports. Like Locker Room is all about sports, but I can say this, Greenroom is going to be really good for podcasters because that is a great way to increase engagement. Now, imagine if you could have a room on Greenroom on Spotify and literally lead people right back to your podcast. Like you don't have to send them another link or anything, just one click of a button and they're going to subscribe to your show. That could be really valuable for podcast hosts in the long term. Right now, it's still being built out. It's like updates going out every day. It's not a ton of podcasters using it just yet, but it's something I can see in the near future for real. One feature I love about Greenroom is you can actually get gems, and gems are basically likes. I like it because that kind of helps you build the audience up, build that engagement. You can even schedule rooms. Now, good, that's another thing that's valuable. If your podcast episode comes out on Tuesday, you can tell your audience, hey, if you want to keep up with us, then go to our Spotify Green Room on, let's just say, Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And it'll be the same name of the podcast. And then when you get that people in there, you get people engaging and everything. Now you are really building a brand of your show. So again, I think Spotify Green Room is going to be really, really powerful as it continues to grow, but we're going to have to get some high level, really engaging podcasts on there first so other hosts can see how valuable it is. And then you can use that to build your community. And I think it's going to be easier because Spotify podcasts and Spotify Green Room can work together in unison. Whereas with Clubhouse, it's very limited. They don't have a chat feature. People have to basically click around to see where they can find you at. It's just harder to use that. Now, I think Spotify is going to find a way to connect the podcast on Spotify with Spotify Green Room. I can guarantee that's coming. Now it's time for our podcast tip of the day. Now, our tip of the day is you need to create an asset for your show. What do I mean by asset? If you think about regular assets, these are things that bring value to your life and they help you in some kind of way, right? If you have real estate, that's an asset. If you have a business, that's an asset. It brings value to your life. So you need an asset for your podcast. Your show needs more assets. I always tell my clients to start off with at least 2 assets. And these really should be your social profiles. It could be an email list. It could be a Facebook group. But you need to have a clear asset that you can use to build community and build brand. What we use for the Podcast Profit Club is our Twitter account. You can go and follow us at Pod Profit Club. Obviously, we just set that up. Go and follow us now. We also, part of what makes the Pod Profit Club one of our assets is that's where we really engage with our community. You know, we have Twitter spaces. We have experts come in our rooms and have conversations and answer questions. That's where we really build that engagement in. We provide that value to our community. So your podcast asset has to actually help your audience in some kind of way. For example, if I was a fitness expert, I would have Zoom sessions every week to answer fitness questions, to answer workout questions. I would even go to the gym and then show people how to use certain equipment. Because, you know, a big reason why most people don't work out is they're scared to look silly in the gym, using the equipment wrong and end up on WorldStar or something. So a great way for a trainer to do that, to really build engagement, is to step outside of just your podcast and refer people somewhere else where they can engage with you more. And really all the assets should do is build that communication. Now, the reason why I say you should have at least 2 is because some people might not use that platform that you're on. For example, when we say come to our Twitter spaces, not everybody has the mindset to be on Twitter. Twitter's a tough place. I get it. Not everybody likes Twitter. So we also use Facebook. That's where we have live sessions. We have a community there where you can ask questions on our wall, and we provide value on Facebook as well, because that's also a place where we want to build that community. So what I've learned over years of using social media is everybody has pretty much their favorite social media platform and then like a secondary one. Right. I've learned that the people that use Twitter don't really love Facebook as much, and people that love Instagram aren't really fans of LinkedIn. Right. So that's really where you should be, is have 2 opposing platforms where you're building your asset, because now once you have that asset, not only is it going to build community, build connection with your audience, you can even use it to get sponsored. Right now, let's say you have a Facebook group of 10,000 people and you have 10,000 followers on Twitter. You can now charge a sponsor $50 for a set of tweets and then a couple $100 for an interview in your Facebook group. All of this is super, super valuable for your brand. So I want you to think about, what assets are you building for your podcast right now? If you had to refer people to one other platform, where would it be? And then what are you doing on that platform to where they should go there? What are you posting there? What content are you sharing? What information are you providing them that makes them want to go there? I can tell you should be on our Twitter spaces every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, because I know that's going to be valuable for you. I can tell you that I want you to be on our Twitter spaces, Pod Profit Club, every Friday at 5 Pacific Standard Time, because I know that's going to be very valuable for you as a podcaster. So ask yourself, what is your asset doing? What value is it bringing? What platform are you going to be on? Start building an asset now that's going to help your brand in the long term. Also, if you want more tips on how to market and grow your podcast, how to monetize, all of that good stuff, make sure you like us on Facebook. We also do go live on Facebook Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and follow us on Twitter, Pod Profit Club, for Friday sessions in Twitter Spaces. Yes, all of this is completely free. Just come join us, get your questions answered, and we're going to provide you with some extreme value. Now it's time for some Quora questions. And I love these questions because they're always really different and all over the place. You know, I love it. I love the mind of podcasters, man. So our first question is from Quora. It says, will Clubhouse be as successful as podcasts? Now, that's a trick question because I don't think the purpose of Clubhouse is to necessarily get rid of podcasts. I've seen people say this, that Clubhouse is going to replace podcasts. And I just don't think that that's possible, honestly, because Clubhouse has an on-demand feature, meaning if you're not there when it happens, then you missed it. You missed it. You can't go back and then hear it again. They even kick people off the app. I've seen people get kicked off because they recorded sessions. So I don't think that the two can really be compared in that way. I also think the best way for podcasters to use Clubhouse is to promote their show on it, obviously, and then provide value to their audience on that platform. Like I said, I think podcasters should use a room on Clubhouse to talk about their podcast, and in their podcast talk about their room on Clubhouse, because then it works together. Right now, I will say you got to be careful on Clubhouse because it's just crazy and it's hectic like any other platform. But I don't think that it can replace podcasts because of the on-demand style. Like, that's not what podcasts are for. If that's the case, then radio will still be doing very well. It's not doing as well because a lot of the content that was on radio is just on podcasts now. You can listen when you want to, and it's way less ads. Like, remember when you used to listen to the radio and you felt like it would be like 8 minutes of straight ads? That doesn't really happen on podcasts. It may be 2 minutes, maybe 3. On some shows, it's ridiculous. It could be 5, but it's never as bad as a radio, is it? And if it is, it's very, very rare. And then even if it is bad on podcasts, you can skip it. So again, radio can't compare to podcasts the same way Clubhouse really can't. It's just meant to complement the platform you're building. Another question we have is, how do you build a podcast without an existing audience? This is a really good question. And I think this is something that stops a lot of people from starting a show that don't already have a following somewhere. I can tell you that doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter how big your audience is or how small it is. Nobody cares, right? You just got to get started because everybody starts at 0. Even the people that have 1 million followers on Instagram, they started that account and they had 0 when they first started. So don't worry about how many listeners or subscribers you're going to have in the beginning. Your goal and your focus should be on putting out great content, right? And if you are afraid of that, set up a plan, a foolproof plan, so that you know you're going to start with listeners. Go reach out to the people who you know will love your content, right? The people who you know you're going to actually help with this content or you're going to entertain. Go talk to them first and see what they want to hear more of. Put that content together and put it out. I think if you're afraid of not having listeners when you launch your show, it's because you know you're not doing the right work. You're not doing the right work as far as setting the foundation for your podcast. You're not setting yourself up to win. So it's easy to be afraid and be scared and kind of panicked about what's going to happen. But if you do the right work and you set the foundation correctly, you're going to be successful. So don't worry about how many listeners you have. The more important question is, what type of listeners do you want? Like, who are you really, really focused on? That's what's important. So I want to thank you for people that post their questions on Quora. Always love that. But also in this segment, man, if you have any questions on podcasting, send them to us at Pod Profit Club on Twitter or put them on our Facebook wall, Podcast Profit Club, and we'll answer them on the next episode. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of the Podcast Profit Club. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment on our Facebook wall, Pod Profit Club. Also reach out to us on Twitter, Pod Profit Club. Really, really loves that support, man. Thank you for that. Also, learning more about Castasi in the description below. If you want all those bonuses, you want that value, it is available right now. Make sure you check it out. First link in the description. Also, another thank you to our expert of the week for Mastermind Minutes. Really appreciate that as well. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep on growing.